Speaker. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to speak in this debate because my constituency includes Teesdale, part of the North Pennines AOMB, and I represent 400 sheep farmers. This area has a very rich environment with 17 triple SIs. Not unconnected with this, a large part of the land is in the commons. A high proportion of the farmers are tenants and incomes are low, last year averaging about 14%. So clause 1 of the bill, which provides for financial assistance for public goods, improving the environment, restoring the natural heritage, supporting public access, should be welcome in an area like this. However, the total lack of detail in the bill means it is not reassuring at all. The implementation of clause 1 can be very arbitrary. As the Secretary of State explained in his description of public goods, they are non-rival and non-excludable. That means there is no market price. So how are DEFRA ministers going to put a value on these public goods when they decide on the payments for the farmers? Over the summer, I talked to a large number of farmers who stressed the uncertainty they face, which the bill does very little to allay. It is, like the European Union Withdrawal Bill and the Sanctions Bill, simply proposing a bundle of delegated legislation of Henry VIII powers, and DEFRA ministers are not even showing us these statutory instruments in draft, even though clause 3, subsection 2H, creates criminal offences. In the bill, the Minister is taking the power to write regulations, giving himself the power to make payments, but we don't know what the criteria for the payments will be, nor to whom the payments will be made, or what the amounts of the payments will be. There is a 7-year transition, which is not like the general 21-month transition under the Prime Minister's Brexit proposals. In fact, it isn't really a transition at all, because current payments won't continue beyond 2022, and then on any day in the following 5 years, the Minister can make changes to those payments. So this may be a series of steps down, or we may see a cliff edge at some point in those 5 years. This is the ultimate in what it's now fashionable to call a blind Brexit. We need to see the draft SIs before third reading. We need to have a proper agreed scrutiny process. The EFRA Select Committee should be able to undertake this, or we need to have an explanation as to whether the Right Honourable Member for Derbyshire Dales will be looking at this in his bill. Let us be clear, farming cannot be environmentally sustainable if it is not financially sustainable. Farmers in the uplands have low profit margins and face considerable volatility. Ministers must guarantee that the new payments are equal in value to the existing BPS and rural development schemes, and they should consider making income support and stabilisation purposes for which payments can be made. Clause 18 is drafted to provide short-term market support, but surely it needs to cover also chronic disruption in the event of changes to trade regimes which damage domestic farm incomes. There is now a real risk of a disorderly or no-deal Brexit, and ministers must be able to deal with this. Clause 26 gives the Secretary of State powers to comply with our WTO obligations, but all the future trading arrangements remain a mystery. These can have a massive impact on our farmers, whether we're talking about access to the EU. Personally, I think we should stay in the customs union, and it seems the Prime Minister is coming round to this, or the regime for imports. The bill should contain provisions to require all food imported into the UK to be produced to at least equivalent standards as they relate to animal welfare, environmental protection and labour standards. I have asked DEFRA ministers 39 times if they will guarantee that they will not have imports of cheap lamb from New Zealand, Australia, Canada and America. They have a 40th chance tonight to answer the question.